Hello and welcome to Taiwan Talks. I'm Ian Kavat. The Solomon Islands in the Pacific has held its first election since switching official recognition from Taiwan to China in 2019. On the surface, results indicated change. A new Prime Minister in Jeremiah Manele to replace Manasseh Sovagare, who made the diplomatic switch to Beijing and campaigned on deepening relations with China. But are the people of the Solomon Islands getting the change they voted for? Will Beijing end up getting the result it wants? And why is the fate of this archipelago being closely watched by China, the United States, Australia and Taiwan? Joining us to discuss this are Alexander Huang, Chung Cheng University professor, and Tsai Jung-hsiang, National Chung Cheng University professor of political science. A very warm welcome to both of you on the show today. Alex, let's start with you first. So how should we read the election results? Do you want to tell us who Jeremiah Manele is?
Right. This is the first general election after 2019 when Solomon Islands switched diplomatic recognition from Taipei to Beijing. The former prime minister and his party won only 15 seats out of the 50 seats of parliament. So that's a significant reduction. Yeah. I think it's more like a referendum vote. However, his opposition won only 12 seats.
Right.
So no one is in full control. In fact, many, I think viewers should know that actually Prime Minister Sovagare is like a referendum for his decision on foreign policy.
To get closer to China?
To get closer to China.
Professor Tsai, Manele, though, was Sovagare's foreign minister.
Yes.
So, you know, how much of a change do we expect? I mean, Alex was right in that the voters voted, seems to be overwhelmingly for change, but how much change will they get?
Okay, the new Premier-elect Manele, he used to be the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and he tried to adopt a strategy of international alignment. So he's a little bit different from his predecessor. Sovagare. So maybe we can expect he will have a different approach from his predecessor. Of course, his predecessor was bargaining with China more. But somebody say this new prime minister, he's a more international guy.
So he wants to have everybody as friends, no enemies.
Yes, and he said this, I want to keep the same policy basis and friends to all and enemies to none. So maybe he will try to engage with Taiwan. Even, of course, they have a diplomatic relationship with China.
Manele was also what one analyst has called the point person on the China deals. So he was the one that negotiated, signed off on, you know, the security agreement with China, also the Honiara Games funded by China, and also agreeing to let Huawei into the country.
Right. You know, given his track record as foreign minister, he did push for a closer, you know, ties and economic deals and other pacts that's signed between Solomon Islands and the People's Republic. But as Professor Tsai had also indicated, that he now assumed the position as the prime minister. And during the course of last election and the election last month, there are also changes because Australia was, you know, alarm have been sounded when they get closer to China. So not only Australia, but also the United States have pushed for a lot of more new efforts and set up a new embassy in Solomon Islands from the United States. So I think the environment, the external environment and the factors that he needs to put into calculation has been more complicated than 4 years ago.
Professor Tsai, what does Solomon Islands mean for China?
Yes, but for China, the Solomon Islands, it's like they can treat Solomon Islands as the springboard of China Belt and Road initiatives. So it's very, very important because
in the Pacific region?
In the South Pacific region, and China wants to expand its sphere of influence in this area. and then try to drive a wedge between the Solomon Islands and the U.S. or Australia. Canberra has to watch closely because security cooperation between China and the Solomon Islands, because as we know, Solomon Islands is not far away from Australia.
Yeah. I mean, as Alexander, as one analyst actually said, this is a very good point, Professor Reyes, that China is trying to create its own island chains, perhaps around Australia.
China's efforts in including South Pacific Island states into its target and expanded their engagement is part of a larger geopolitical map. I think the West, the United States, Australia, we all understand that China has an ambition to expand its influence in the Pacific Islands.
So what's at the heart of that, though, Alexander?
I think...
I mean, is it Taiwan?
Yeah, for Taiwan, I think it will put, a bump, if not a knife, that is very closer to the U.S.-Australian bilateral alliance. And it also can set up a lot of facilities, for instance, reconnaissance or information collection, or certain towers, or even use their very good deep water port for the Chinese Coast Guard as well as the Chinese Navy.
So is this in the event of a Taiwan crisis?
Yeah, I think not necessarily for Taiwan scenario. I think it's a larger picture that if we elevate ourselves and look down on a larger map of the entire Pacific or Western Pacific, it sits in a strategic location there between Guam and Australia. And it also has a very close watch and linked with the Darwin, the Chinese land or the area in Darwin. So I'm not suggesting a domino effect, but it may have an impact on other island states in the South Pacific.
Okay, and so very briefly, what does China have in Darwin?
In Darwin, China had 90 years of lease of certain portion of the Darwin port,
right,
which is not far away from the United States Marine Training Base. So when the deal was announced, for us that watching that closely would have a lot of thought about what China can do over there, even though they claim it's purely commercial.
Right.
But we, as military watchers, we don't think it's going to be only commercial.
Yeah, maybe similar to Sri Lanka.
Right.
Professor Tsai, how do the events of World War II show the strategic significance of the Solomon Islands?
Yeah, according to the world history, there's a campaign we call Guadalcanal campaign against the Japanese Solomon Islands. So it was a shift in the Allies' posture from defensive to offensive operation. So it was a game changer in the World War II to fight with Japanese. So the Solomon Islands are very, very important, especially strategically. Okay, so but the thing is that the leftover of the war for the Solomon Islands is unexploded bombs and landmines throughout the entire country, including some residential area. So it's a headache problem for the Solomon Islands. So it's their top priority to deal with this issue because it's very, very important. Of course, Solomon Islands, it's the archipelago is located in the international shipping lanes and it's up for grabs between US and China. But the thing is that China has been using dollar diplomacy to prevail over the US in this diplomatic battle.
Okay. Now, China critic Daniel Suidani and former Malaita Province Premier won a seat on the assembly for Malaita this election, but in the last couple of days has pulled out, citing the political effects of unrelenting personal attacks and concerns for the safety of family. So, Alex, let me come to you. What position does Malaita Province hold in the relationship between Solomon and Taiwan?
Yeah, Malaita Province, looking from Taiwan, we can say that it is the most friendly section of the entire Solomon Islands.
And why is that?
And I believe that it's because of, the governor Suidani's personal affection to Taiwan, and his
pro-democracy
belief, and also Taiwan had worked with that province and supported their local economically. So I think Taiwan has maintained a pretty close relationship with Malaita Province. And so the people over there, including the governor, that had always had a very positive perception about Solomon Islands' relationship with Taiwan. So when the Prime Minister Sovagare decided to switch the relationship, that province had the strongest voice against such a diplomatic switch. So that's why I think the Premier Suidani had not very easy relationship with either the new Prime Minister or the previous one, with the Central Solomon Islands government.
Okay. And Professor Tsai, indeed, after that switch, the diplomatic switch, Taiwan and Malaita still maintained relations. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, because Premier Suidani, he was sick in 2021 and he came to Taiwan for medical treatment. So he has a personal connection with Taiwan. And he also, he had banned Chinese companies in his province and accept U.S. development aid. He was ousted by a no confidence vote in February 2023 because he was accused of taking away some money from a Chinese-owned mining company and power abuse.
But the bigger picture is, of course, he was ousted because of a campaign by China.
Yes, because
he didn't accept the One China policy or principle.
He didn't accept One China principle. Yeah.
Okay. So for more, I had the privilege of speaking to Daniel Suidani just after his decision to pull out of the race for Premier of Malaita Province. I began by asking the reasons for his decision.
I've seen there's a lot of talks about me saying that if Mr. Suidani comes back to power, he will stop developments and he will stop sealing of the roads and all the problem that happens in Malaita because of his stand and because of his premiership. So that also create a lot of concern for me and my family. So people might view my position as an obstacle to development. So that's the reason why I withdraw my position as the candidate for premiership.
You were voted in a landslide. So the people of Malaita want you back.
Yes, 80% of Malaitans who have been in the island, in the province, still got their support with me. But the reason for my decision that other been preaching is about things that the China, the national government and the friendship with the Jiangsu province in China has been doing. They've been giving tanks and solar panels to the province, and that really, is a show off to the province that China can do anything for the people. So if I continue to stand, that will create a lot of disagreement with those members who we stand together.
What do you make of the election results at the national level? We saw essentially that Manasseh Sovagare stepped aside, and Jeremiah Manele now is the new PM. Does this mean the change that voters wanted?
And we have seen a lot of our party candidates have lost their seats. And just like in Malaita Province, most of the pro-China candidates from the provincial government have lost their seats as well. But what turns out to be now in the government is something many people have been questioning, how Manele, how this government formed, and how the like of the people of Solomon Islands didn't happen during the prime minister's elections.
The election itself was delayed by a year. Can you tell us why that happened and how?
What the government is saying is that they give way for the South Pacific Games, the games to happen. And this delayed tactics, in my view, is a way forward to give them time to strengthen the other team, the pro-China team, to get along with what they want to do or what they want to have during the election. So it is something like a scoring point for the national government and the CCP.
Even after the switch to China for Solomon Islands, your province maintained a relationship with Taiwan. Can you tell us about that?
We share the same values and principles. We want to have friendship with those who have the same value with us, those who respect our culture, our values in our country. So that is one of the main reasons why we keep friendship with Taiwan, because Taiwan has been here for 36 years. And this is quite a long time, and we cannot leave Taiwan that way as a good friend. Taiwan has also been funding projects in the Solomon Islands, and Taiwan has been standing for Solomon Island in the darkest time of Solomon Islands. They are the ones who are here during the ethnic unrest and solve all the problems in Solomon Islands. So that is one of the reasons why a good friend like Taiwan cannot be, pushed out easily.
So that was former Premier of Malaita Province, Daniel Suidani, talking to me from Malaita. Alex, let me come to you. So in November 2021, 2 years after the switch happened, riots broke out in the capital Honiara. Protesters stormed Sovagare's residence. Chinatown was looted. Buildings were burnt. Okay, so why? What was behind these protests?
I think, of course, I believe that economic reasons play a role, but it also shows that people were not really satisfied with the Solomon Islands government link with China, and that they did not see that the Chinese promises that had bring in more, benefactor or beneficial, for the island. So I think there are different, causes for the riot, but it was very clear it was targeted China. The reason why that they looted the Chinatown, that was a reflection of their dissatisfaction with the new relationship 2 years into their official relationship.
Professor Tsai, but how much are they representative of the whole population? So, of course, the other side of the picture is that China has or is building infrastructure for Solomon Islands, and that there is more infrastructure being built than previously, either by Australia or the US or even Taiwan.
Yes, the thing is that Solomon Islands has some abundant forest resources, and they many been exporting their timber to China. But the thing is that it try to cut down trees for commercial purposes can contribute to global warming stuff, right?
So there's been illegal logging?
Illegal logging, and then because this kind of industry has implicated in corruption, because you need government officials to give you logging permits, but sometimes it involves some kickbacks. That's why, the whole situation is very complicated.
Okay.
Yeah, well, talking about the timber, the COVID-19 situation also play into this. Because of the COVID impact, so the logs that cannot be shipped for a long time. So the business itself was shut down for a long while. And that caused a lot of, local economy that stagnated. So that's the economic factor that play into this riot as well.
Professor Tsai,
Yes.
so, there has been basically people saying that the feared Chinese militarization of the Solomon Islands were overblown and hasn't materialized. What's your thoughts on that? There's still plenty of time, right, for this sort of development. China plays a long game, as we often say.
Yeah, somebody say because Chinese militarization of Solomon Islands can be seen as establishing an outpost in the South Pacific, which can project power to the Southern Cone, especially for monitoring Australia or even the submarines of AUKUS. So moreover, with China's establishing a presence in the Solomon Islands, I think it can assert a legitimate rationale for the Solomon Island, okay? Because, China have some business in Solomon Island, and they have some diaspora community in Solomon Islands. When they have threats, maybe China can do something, can intervene in this kind of situation. Right now, they don't have a military base, of course, but it's like step by step. So, but for Solomon Islands, the thing is that if you try to depend on China's infrastructure and investment, that kind of thing, you will have a risk of falling into a debt trap. So it could be something like sugar-coated poison for the Solomon Island.
Sugar-coated poison. But some analysts, Alex, say that, in fact, the switch to China was precipitated because of neglect by the US and Australia. Can you go into the history of some of that?
Well, in a sense, it is. If we watch the debates in Canberra, Australia, or recently discussions in the media among the American pundits, island states in the South Pacific were overlooked for a long while.
Since the Cold War?
Right, and that gave China an opportunity. And also the West, or the major countries, was distracted by the conflict in Afghanistan and Iraq.
So when we say overlooked, what do we mean that they didn't do?
That Australia, reduced their aids to Solomon Islands, and did not really think that Solomon Islands is such a strategic. It could be. They did not believe or ever thought about that Solomon Islands could be a strategic outpost for PRC. And when they finally learned that the switch of the recognition in 2019 and the never revealed security pact in 2022, then suddenly, both Washington and Canberra started to think, oh my God, we need to do something.
Professor Tsai, is it too late for the United States? I mean, Alexander mentioned that they only reopened embassy very recently.
I don't think it's too late, but the thing is that why U.S. terminated diplomatic relationship with the Solomon Islands because the Cold War budget cut. But the thing is that Australia used to sign a security treaty in 2017. But the thing is that China is in the picture. It stirs the pot. So now it's time for Australia to do more. But the thing is that it's very sad when you see the Solomon Islands and China holding hands together.
Returning to the start, the new PM, Jeremiah Manele, he would allow a military base on the Solomon Islands?
I think under the international eyes, under the watch of the United States and step up efforts by Canberra. I think he would be very cautious if he wanted to introduce any military, ingredients or factors into this security pact. They have more problems to solve, and it is not in their interest to really getting the PRC militarily into the Solomon Islands.
Yeah. After all, Professor Tsai, it might spark some more riots, which is obviously not something that.
It could be.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll have to end it there. Thank you so much, Alexander Huang and Tsai Jung-hsiang, for joining Taiwan Talks today. If you liked our show, please search for us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, and hit subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching the show today.
In the face of adversity, the power of truth.
A roadmap for a just and open world, charted by the freest country in Asia.
Taipei for Taiwan Plus.
Taiwan Plus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.
经历过人生的话，你发现说，我们大部分都是爱美。
我自己少遇见一朵花，我可能就不是这个样子。
开始思考什么叫做一个本土性。
大声的唱出来说我是台湾人。